Hi Karam guys, what is going on? Today I am back here bringing you another commentary video. It's story time actually. This one again. It's about another English teacher. I don't know. My English teachers are crazy. I have some crazy ones, and there were two in a row. Uh, 8th grade and 7th grade. 8th grade was the one last year, or not last year, last video, and that video was enjoyable to make, and it was pretty. It did okay. So it's like, why not do a second one? So here we are telling the story of my 7th grade English teacher, who we're gonna call Mr. T. And Mr. T was different. He was like my old English teacher that I said was different, but he was more different than her. He was unique in a sense that was very enjoyable and fun to everybody. The way he taught was very different. It was unique. Um, it was very enjoyable to everybody. Um, no one disliked him. Everybody liked him as a teacher. He's a very good person, but he ended up leaving the school the year after. So that was kind of sad for everybody who didn't get to experience him. But for everybody who did, they will tell you how good of a teacher he was. And some of the things he did were a little ridiculous, and it's kind of funny. Looking back on it now, how crazy he got with some of the things he did in the classroom. Um, like he was a very into meme person. He was a very into meme culture. Um, so back around that time, whenever Uganda Knuckles was popular, whenever it was mostly Uganda Knuckles or dabbing too. Whenever those things were popular, he would do those. And Fortnite, whenever all those were at their peak, he was going crazy. He would dab every day in class, which was nuts. And also, he drew a Ugandan Knuckles on the whiteboard of the class. This man had the art skill not only to draw the Ugandan Knuckles to make it, but to make it look good too. He was a pure genius, is what this he was. And and what ended up happening after the Ugandan Knuckles was my favorite by far meme of his, which was what he was known for in our school, which was his blue trucks. And his blue trucks were probably the best by far meme that he had around. Uh, so he every time we saw a blue truck on the outside of the class, we would tell him, "Hey, blue truck," and he would stop the class and he would just say, "Alright, everybody, look outside. Look at the blue truck," and we would admire the blue truck pass for no reason, for legit no reason, just to admire the blue truck that he so told us to, because we were so driven in by his passion of blue trucks, which is very strange to say it out loud, but thinking back on it, it was still very strange. Like, no matter which way you put it, anyway, it was very strange. So, after his blue truck phenomenon, another thing that he did was every time he got a Fortnite win, he would post it up on the smart board. So, what happened one day is we walk into class and we look at the smart board. It usually has like the activities that we're doing there for the day, or like what's coming up for the next week. And he usually posts a meme on there, like relating to the classwork that we're doing that day. And like Miss J in the last video, we really never did anything in his class. He would give us assignments every now and then, but nothing major. So it was pretty chill class apart from like some things. He taught, but not much. But one day we all come into the class and he announces to the class, "I got my first Fortnite win," and we're all going crazy. Like how this teacher who we know nothing of and plays video games, that's crazy. So, that was a little surprising on everybody's part, but we congratulated him, and, you know, we were very proud of our teacher for getting that epic victory royale. Um, Another thing he did, which was very funny, he got our school banned from Wikipedia. Our school got IP banned because of him that year, because he wrote a story on one of the Wikipedia pages about the lunch fight of the century. And basically, what this story entailed was a person who initially just did not like another person, basically, and they fought at lunchtime. And the story was the craziest thing you will ever hear, because this man was a writer. He was creative. He was the most creative person ever. It was a crazy story. There was mashed potatoes being thrown, corn being thrown, like anything that you can think of. He made been thrown, and whatever whatever happened at the end of the lunch fight, no one will ever know. But he added velociraptors to the end of the the story. Just velociraptors come into the school cafeteria at the very end for no reason apart from why not. So, we were all very confused, but we were all very proud of him for his hard work and dedication into this story that he had created in probably first period, and I had him last period uh, that year. So we were his fun class to say. So he ended off on a good note. And just like Miss J, how Miss J had her fun class first and eighth, so did Mr. T. My school had this thing that they called Fun Food Friday, which happened every 6 weeks, I believe. Just from I don't remember the reason exactly that they did it. I think it was just to finish off the year on a good note, or not the year, but one of the grading periods on a good note, and they would congratulate us with food. And so every time that came around, the Fun Food Friday, I would always get Skittles, like maybe a bag, maybe 2 bags. But in this class, there was this tradition that if you brought food from Fun Food Friday, specifically just towards me, you had to stuff it in your mouth. And so that's what I ended up doing every single Fun Food Friday from that point on. I stuffed the Skittles in my mouth, and at one point, it sounds very gross. It made like a retainer in my mouth. It was a very gross mess. Nothing spilled on the table, but it was just very gross in my mouth and to everybody looking upon us. And there's a lot more things that have come from that class that were inspired in Miss J's class as well. Um, one of the things in Mr. T's class that we did was we wrote a lot of stories, a lot of short stories that used our creativity, or we would analyze something and use our creativity to run that analyzation of a poem or a passage or something like that. And at one point, we had to do an analyzation of a poem. And that poem, I forget what it's called, but we had to do the theme of the poem, I believe, and our project was called A Fork in the Road. It was Elliot and I, because we were in the same class, and we did this project, and what this project was about was just the relative theme, like different things that went on in the poem and what the poem meant, standard English stuff. And what we did, we made it creative. We had a little game in the presentation. We added tiny little bean bags of the crying laughing emoji into our theme. well, yeah, into our theme, into every slide of our presentation. And it was funny because at the end of the, because he never caught it. He never caught it. At the end of our presentation, it said, "Did you catch it?" And it showed the picture of the it showed the picture of the crying, laughing emoji beanbag, and nobody had ended up catching that thing except for a couple students, and be like, "Yeah, I saw it in the corner, or I saw it in the bottom of the page on slide 4, or something like that." Like, almost no one ended up catching it. But it was a really funny thing because our presentation was by far the best uh, out of the entire class. He was also a big, seeing as he was big into meme culture, so were we. We were inspired by his memery. So, uh, taken from him, we did another project that allowed us to indulge in our creativity, which he called the Silent Project. And what this project consisted of is us having to portray uh, a story without the use of words. It was all portrayed in the use of just visuals. No words were allowed, text was allowed, but nothing else. And at the very end of our time, we did the only thing we thought that was appropriate, and we rickrolled the entire class. Because if you're gonna be in a meme class, you gotta rickroll at least a couple people. So we rickrolled the entire class. Needless to say, they were not very happy with that, but everybody got a good laugh at it, and everybody had a good time for that. The very last thing that Mr. T did, it was at the end of the year. He wrote everybody letters at the end of the year saying what he enjoyed about them being in his class. And me being the clown, as my friends like to call me, that I am, I'd always laugh in the classroom. I was always laughing. I was always being joyful in the classroom. Because just, you know, a fun environment is going to create a fun person. So that's what ended up happening. So he wrote me this letter, and I forget what it said, but it was really sarcastic and ironic, but because that's just the type of person he was. But I found it hilarious. Like, this legend wrote to 100 and whatever amount of students just to say how much he meant, how much they meant to him. I feel like that is the best kind of teacher any student could ever ask for. One that is never too strict on them and always appreciates them being there for them. That is the story of my legendary teacher, Mr. T, who inspired everybody in meme culture and not, and enjoyed his classrooms, enjoyed everything, enjoyed doing everything for his students and everything not for his students. Mr. T was, to say, one of the greatest teachers I have ever had and my friends have ever had. So yeah, that's the story of Mr. T. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and let me know if you want more of these commentary style videos. Yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.